The room went dead quiet as the screen flickered to life. A single spotlight cut through the darkness, landing on Elon Musk, standing alone at a sleek glass podium. His shoulders sagged, his eyes red and heavy, like a man who hadn't slept in days. "I have something to tell you," he said, his voice low, almost breaking on the first word. The words hung in the air, heavy, like a storm about to break. Every Tesla worker in the room, engineers, line workers, designers, froze, their hearts pounding. They knew this wasn't just another company update. Something big was coming. Something bad. The Tesla factory in Austin was packed that morning. Rows of employees stood shoulder to shoulder, their blue and white uniforms glowing under the harsh factory lights. The air smelled of metal and oil, the hum of machines silent for the first time in months. On the walls, giant screens showed Elon's face, broadcast live to every Tesla plant across the world. In Fremont, workers leaned forward in their chairs. In Shanghai, teams gathered in break rooms, eyes glued to the feed. Everyone felt it, the weight of something about to change forever. Elon gripped the podium, his knuckles white. "This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do," he said, his voice shaking. He looked down, like he couldn't face the crowd. "I've been fighting for weeks, fighting for you, for us, for everything we've built." His words came fast now, sharp and urgent, each one hitting like a punch. "The board, they've been on me. They've got numbers, charts, plans. They say we're running out of time." He paused, wiping his face with a trembling hand. The camera zoomed in, catching the shine of tears in his eyes. This wasn't the Elon they knew, the bold dreamer, the man who laughed off critics. This was a man breaking under pressure. Meet Sarah Thompson, a lead engineer in Austin. She stood near the front, her arms crossed tight, her stomach twisting. 8 years ago, she'd left a safe job to join Tesla, chasing a dream to change the world. She'd worked late nights, designing battery systems that could power cities. Her name was on 2 patents, her ideas part of Tesla's beating heart. But now, watching Elon, her chest felt tight. What's he going to say, she thought. Is this about me, my team? Her mind flashed back to last week, when her manager hinted at tough choices. She'd brushed it off, too busy with her latest project. Now, those words felt like a warning she'd ignored. Elon's voice grew louder, more desperate. "The market's shifting," he said. "Electric cars aren't the future anymore. They're the present. Everyone's catching up. Our costs are too high. Our cash is burning too fast." He stopped, his breath shaky. "I've tried everything. I've argued with the board. I've begged them. I've shown them what we've done, your work, your ideas, your sweat. But they won't listen." His voice dropped to a whisper. "They've given me no choice." Sarah's heart sank. Around her, workers exchanged nervous glances. Marcus, a line worker from Fremont, felt his hands go cold. He'd been with Tesla 5 years, never missed a shift. His wife was pregnant, their first kid due in 3 months. No choice, he thought, his mind racing. What does that mean? In Nevada, Linda, a young battery researcher, bit her lip so hard it bled. She'd poured her soul into her work, believing Tesla could save the planet. Now, she felt like the ground was crumbling beneath her. The camera lingered on Elon's face, his eyes locked on the crowd. "You're the reason Tesla exists," he said, his voice raw. "Every car we've built, every battery, every idea, it's because of you. But what I'm about to say," he stopped, his voice catching. "It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt me. And it's going to hurt you." The room seemed to hold its breath. Sarah's pulse raced. Marcus clenched his fists. Linda's eyes burned with tears she wouldn't let fall. What was coming? How bad would it be? Elon's voice cracked like glass as he leaned into the podium. "The board has decided," he said, each word heavy, like stones dropping into still water. "We have to cut 95% of our workforce, effective immediately." The words hit the room like a shockwave. Gasps rippled through the Austin factory. In Fremont, someone dropped a coffee cup, the crash echoing in the stunned silence. In Shanghai, workers stared at the screen, mouths open, as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Sarah Thompson, the lead engineer, felt her knees buckle. 95%. Her mind spun. That's almost everyone. That's me. Elon's face filled the giant screens, his eyes glistening, his hands shaking. "I fought them," he said, his voice raw and desperate. "I stayed up nights, running numbers, calling investors, begging for another way. But the math doesn't lie. We're bleeding money. The stock's down 45% this year. We've got 12 months before we're done, completely done. He paused, his breath ragged. They told me it's this or nothing. Cut 95% or lose everything. We've built the camera, caught a tear rolling down his cheek, and for a moment, he looked like a man drowning. Sarah's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She glanced at her team, 12 engineers who'd trusted her, who'd worked weekends, who'd believed in her vision for better batteries. Now, their faces were pale, eyes wide with fear. This can't be real, she thought. Her mind flashed to her first day at Tesla, 8 years ago, when she'd walked into the factory, buzzing with excitement. She'd dreamed of building a future where clean energy powered the world. Now, that dream felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Sarah whispered to her assistant, Lisa, her voice trembling. Are we out? Sarah couldn't answer. Her throat was too tight, her thoughts a jumble of panic and disbelief. Elon's voice grew sharper, urgent. The board's given me a list, he said, pulling a crumpled paper from his pocket. His hands shook so badly he nearly dropped it. They've picked who stays. Only the absolute essentials, people we can't run without. It's not about who's best, it's about survival. He looked up, his eyes pleading with the crowd. I need you to know, this isn't about your work. You're all incredible. You're the heart of Tesla. But the numbers, they're killing us. His voice broke again. I've gone over this list 100 times. I've argued for every name, but they wouldn't budge. In Fremont, Marcus Rodriguez stood frozen, his fists clenched. 5 years on the assembly line, never missing a day, training new workers, keeping the line running smooth. His wife's ultrasound picture was tucked in his pocket, a reminder of the baby coming in 3 months. Essential, he thought, his stomach twisting. I'm just a line worker. They don't need me to keep the lights on. His coworker Tom leaned over, his voice low. This is bad, Marcus. Real bad. Marcus nodded, his throat too dry to speak. He thought of his wife, who'd been so proud when he got the Tesla job. Now, what would he tell her? In Nevada, Linda Park felt her chest tighten. She was a battery researcher, one of the best, her work on the verge of a breakthrough that could change energy storage forever. But as Elon spoke, doubt crept in. Essential, she wondered, or just another name on a list they don't need. Her mind flashed to late nights in the lab, her team cheering when they hit a milestone. Now, those same teammates stood around her, their faces grim, waiting for the axe to fall. We're done for, whispered Dr. Martinez, her colleague. They can't keep research going with a skeleton crew. Linda wanted to argue, but the fear in her gut told her he was right. Elon's voice dropped to a whisper. If you're staying, you'll get a call tonight. If you don't, he stopped, his jaw tight, like the words were too heavy to say. You'll get a letter. Severance, benefits, job help, we'll do what we can. But I need you to know, this breaks me. You're my family, and I'm tearing it apart. The camera zoomed in, his face pale, his eyes red and swollen. This wasn't a CEO reading a script. This was a man falling apart in front of the world. Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it, her eyes locked on the screen. A call means I stay. No call means I'm gone. Her mind raced. She'd given Tesla everything, her ideas, her late nights, her heart. She'd missed her daughter's recitals, her husband's birthday dinners, all for this mission. And now, it might all be over. What if I'm not essential? She thought, her hands trembling. What if I'm just replaceable? Across the room, she saw her teammate Jake, a young engineer, wipe his eyes. I thought we were changing the world, he muttered. I thought we mattered. The screen flickered as Elon stepped back, his shoulders slumped. I'll read the names soon, he said, his voice barely audible. But first, I need you to understand why. Why we're here. Why we have no choice. He paused, his eyes scanning the crowd, as if searching for a way out. The room was silent, every worker hanging on his words, dreading what came next. Sarah's phone buzzed again, her heart stopped. Was it the call? Or just another email? Another reminder of a life about to end? She reached for her phone, her hands shaking, as Elon's voice echoed. This isn't the end, but it's going to feel like it. Sarah Thompson's hand froze on her phone, her heart hammering so loud it drowned out Elon's voice on the screen. The Austin factory was a blur of faces, some crying, some staring blankly, others whispering in panic. This isn't the end, Elon repeated, his voice hoarse, barely holding together. But it's going to feel like it. The words cut through Sarah like a knife. 8 years at Tesla, her life's work, her dreams of a cleaner world all hanging by a thread. She glanced at her phone screen. No missed calls. Just a text from her husband. Everything okay? Her throat tightened. How could she answer that? How could she tell him she might be nothing by morning? Elon's hands shook as he held up the crumpled list. The names of the 400 staying. I can't read them, he said, his voice breaking. Completely, the paper slipped from his fingers, fluttering to the floor like a dead leaf. The camera zoomed in, catching the raw pain in his eyes, red swollen, haunted. I can't stand here and choose who gets to stay when every single one of you is why we're here. He looked straight into the camera, his voice a desperate whisper. If you're in this room, in Fremont, in Nevada, in Shanghai, stand up. If you got a call, stand if you're staying. The silence that followed was suffocating. In Austin, Sarah's breath caught. Her phone was still blank. Around her, a few people stood hesitant, shaky, like they weren't sure they deserved it. Out of 200 in the room, only 4 rose. In Fremont, Marcus Rodriguez stayed seated, his hands clenched so tight his nails dug into his palms. No call, he thought, his chest heavy. 5 years, and I'm not essential. His mind flashed to his wife, her smile when they'd bought their first home, banking on his steady Tesla paycheck. Now, that life felt like it was crumbling. In Nevada, Linda Park stood slowly, her legs trembling. She'd gotten the call an hour ago, her manager's voice cold and clipped. You're staying. Be ready to work harder than ever. But as she looked around, seeing only 3 others standing in a sea of 300, guilt hit her like a wave. Why me? She thought, tears burning her eyes. Why do I get to stay when my whole team's gone? Her research, her life's mission to revolutionize batteries, felt impossible now. How could 5 people carry the work of hundreds? Sarah sank into her chair, her body heavy, like gravity had doubled. No call. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. 8 years nights away from her family, her daughters missed, bedtimes her husband's quiet sacrifices, all for Tesla. All for a dream she thought was bigger than herself. Now, it was slipping away. Sarah, Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. Did you? Sarah shook her head, her eyes stinging. Nothing, she said, her voice barely audible. It's over. The words felt like a herself, her team, her purpose. She thought of her daughter Emma, who'd once drawn a picture of a Tesla car saving the planet. How could she explain this? Elon's voice broke through again, softer now, almost pleading. If you're not standing, I need you to hear me. This isn't about you. This isn't about your work, your heart, your value. It's about numbers we couldn't beat. He wiped his face, tears streaking down. You'll get letters tonight's severance, benefits, job help. It's not enough. I know it's not. But I swear, this isn't the end of Tesla. It's not the end of us. His words sounded hollow, even to him. Sarah stared at the floor, her mind racing. Severance, job help. It wasn't just a job she was losing. It was her identity, her reason to get up every morning. Marcus felt his phone buzz in his pocket. He pulled it out, hands shaking, hoping against hope. A text, not a call. From his coworker Tom. I'm out. You. Marcus's stomach dropped. He typed back, same. His fingers felt numb. He thought of his wife, 8 months pregnant, counting on him. He thought of the crib they'd just assembled, the nursery they'd painted blue. What now, he thought, his heart sinking deeper into despair. The factory around him felt like a graveyard, the machines silent, the air thick with grief. But then, something shifted. In Nevada, Linda's phone buzzed again. She glanced down, expecting another cold instruction from her manager. Instead, it was an email sent to her personal account, not her work one. The subject line read, "We're not done." Her breath caught. She opened it, her eyes scanning quickly. It was from Dr. Martinez, her colleague who was also staying. Linda, I've got an idea. Meet me after this. We can't let the research die. Her heart raced, a tiny spark of hope flickering in the darkness. An idea, she thought. What could we possibly do with 5 people? But the thought of fighting back, of saving even a piece of their work, made her stand straighter. Sarah, still seated, felt her phone buzz again. She almost ignored it. Too tired, too broken, to care. But something made her look. An email from an old colleague who'd left Tesla years ago. The subject, "You're too good to stop." Her hand shook as she opened it. "Sarah, I heard what's happening. My startup needs someone like you. Call me." A spark, faint but real, flared in her chest. A way forward, she thought, her mind racing. Or just another false hope. She looked up at Elon, still speaking, his voice a mix of pain and defiance. "We're going to fight," he said, his fists clenched. "The 400 who stayed you're our last hope, and the 19,000 leaving you're not forgotten. We'll come back for you." The camera lingered on Elon's face, his eyes burning with a mix of grief and determination. Sarah clutched her phone, her heart torn between despair and that tiny, stubborn spark. Could she start over? Could Tesla? The room was still, but the air crackled with a new question. Was this really the end? Or the start of something no one saw coming? The Austin factory was a sea of stunned faces, the air thick with grief and fear. Sarah Thompson's phone burned. In her hand, the email from her old colleague glowing on the screen. "You're too good to stop." Her heart pounded, a mix of hope and dread swirling in her chest. On the giant screens, Elon's voice trembled, his words coming faster now, like he was racing against time. "I need you to know the truth," he said, his eyes darting to the side, as if afraid someone might stop him. "This isn't just about numbers. There's something else, something they didn't want me to tell you." The crowd leaned forward, breaths held, as the camera zoomed in on his pale, sweat-streaked face. Sarah's pulse raced. Something else. Her mind spun, clinging to every word. Around her, the factory buzzed with whispers. Marcus Rodriguez in Fremont gripped his chair, his knuckles white. What now? He thought, his stomach twisting. He'd already lost his job. His future, what more could there be? In Nevada, Linda Park stood frozen, her eyes locked on the screen. The cryptic email from Dr. Martinez Weir, not done, still burning in her mind. The room felt like it was closing in, the tension so thick it was hard to breathe. Elon's voice dropped, almost a whisper. "The board, they've been planning this for months," he said, his words sharp, like a blade cutting through the silence. "They didn't just see numbers. They saw a chance to reshape Tesla, to sell it off, to gut it." Gasps echoed through the factories. Sarah's breath caught, her hands shaking. Sell Tesla. Her mind flashed to her years of work patents. Late nights breakthroughs, all for a company that might be torn apart. They brought in consultants. Elon continued, his voice rising, angry now. "Secret meetings. Plans to break us in two. Pieces, sell our tech, our factories, our future. They think we're too big, too risky. They want to cash out." The revelation hit like a thunderclap. In Fremont, Marcus felt his chest tighten, anger surging through him. "They're selling us out," he thought, his hands trembling. He'd given Tesla 5 years, poured his heart into every car on the line. And now it wasn't just about layoffs. It was betrayal. In Nevada, Linda's jaw clenched, her guilt turning to fury. All our research, our breakthroughs. Just to be sold to the highest bidder. She thought of her team, scattered now, their dreams at risk of being auctioned off. Sarah's eyes burned with tears. But beneath the pain, something else stirred rage. "They lied to us," she thought. "They let us believe this was about survival, not greed." Elon's voice cracked, his face a mix of defiance and despair. "I found out last week," he said, his hands gripping the podium so hard it shook. "They hid it from me. From you. I got a leaked report, pages of deals. Buyers circling like vultures. They thought I'd go along with it. They thought I'd let Tesla die." He paused, his eyes blazing into the camera. "But I won't. I can't." The crowd erupted in murmurs, some shouting, others crying. The camera caught a board member in the background, his face pale, shifting uncomfortably. This wasn't supposed to happen. Elon wasn't supposed to fight back. Sarah's phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Her heart raced, her mind reeling. They're selling Tesla. It wasn't just her job at stake, it was everything she'd built, everything she'd believed in. Her daughter's drawing flashed in her mind, the Tesla car saving the planet. That dream, her life's work, was about to be carved up and sold. Her chest heaved, her breaths shallow. She felt like she was drowning, the weight of 8 years crashing down. "I gave them everything," she thought, tears streaming down her face, "and they were going to throw it away." But then, that spark from the email flared brighter. "You're too good to stop." Her old colleague's words echoed, cutting through the despair. "Maybe I don't have to let this end on Nevada." Linda's hands shook as she reread Dr. Martinez's email. "We can't let the research die." Her mind raced. "If they're selling the tech, we have to protect it." She thought of her battery breakthrough, the one that could change the world. She couldn't let it fall into the hands of some corporate giant who'd bury it for profit. Her heart pounded, a mix of fear and determination. "We have to act fast," she thought. her eyes darting to Dr. Martinez. Across the room, he nodded slightly, as if he could feel her resolve. Marcus, still seated in Fremont, felt his anger boil over. They lied to us, he thought, his fists clenched. He thought of his wife, his unborn child, the life they'd planned. He wasn't essential to Tesla's skeleton crew, but he wasn't done fighting. If they're selling the company, I'm not walking away quietly. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Tom. We gotta do something. Marcus's jaw tightened. He's right, he thought, a fire igniting in his chest. Sarah stood, her legs shaky but her eyes clear. The factory around her was chaos, people, shouting, crying, some storming out. But she felt a shift inside her, a decision forming like steel. I'm not letting them take Tesla's soul. She grabbed her phone, her fingers trembling as she typed a reply to her old colleague. I'm in. Let's talk tonight. Her heart raced, but for the first time that day, it wasn't just fear, it was purpose. She looked at the screen, where Elon was still speaking, his voice fierce now. We're not done, he said, his eyes burning. I'm not giving up, and I know you won't either. Sarah took a deep breath, her hands steadying. They want to sell Tesla, she thought, her jaw set. Then I'll fight to save it. She stepped forward, ready to rally her team, ready to find a way to keep the dream alive. The revelation had broken her, but it had also woken something fierce inside. This wasn't just about her job anymore. It was about fighting for what mattered most. The Austin factory was a storm of chaos, the air electric with rage and desperation. Sarah Thompson stood at the center of her team's conference room, her heart pounding like a drum. The clock on the wall ticked past midnight, each second a hammer blow. The leaked board report lay scattered across the table, pages of cold calculations. Deals to sell Tesla's tech, its factories, its soul. Sarah's hands shook as she clutched a USB drive, her team's battery designs compressed into a single file. This is it, she thought, her breath ragged. Our last chance to save what we've built. If she failed tonight, Tesla's future, her team's dreams would be auctioned off to the highest bidder. The screens still glowed with Elon's face, his voice now a defiant roar. They want to tear us apart, he said, his fists clenched, tears streaming down his cheeks. But I'm not letting them. We're not letting them. Fight with me. His words echoed through every Tesla facility, igniting a fire in the 400 who stayed and the 19,000 who'd been cut. In Fremont, Marcus Rodriguez stood among a crowd of laid-off workers, their faces grim but resolute. They'd barricaded the factory gates, refusing to let board-hired movers take the equipment. This is our home, Marcus shouted, his voice raw. They don't get to take it. In Nevada, Linda Park and Dr. Martinez worked frantically, in the lab, uploading their research to a secure server. If they sell the tech, Linda muttered, her fingers flying across the keyboard, they'll get nothing but scraps. Sarah's team, 12 engineers, all slated to leave by morning, stood around her, their eyes burning with the same fire. We can't let them win, Sarah said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. These designs are work, it's Tesla's heart. If we get them to Elon, he can stop the board. Her teammate Jake, his face pale, nodded. But how? The board's watching every move. They've got security locking down the servers. Sarah held up the USB drive, her knuckles white. We go old school. We walk it out. Tonight. The room went silent, the weight of the risk sinking in. If they were caught, it wasn't just their jobs. They could face lawsuits, ruin, jail. The stakes were crushing. Sarah thought of her daughter, Emma, asleep at home, dreaming of a world powered by clean energy. If I fail, she'd grow up in a world where greed wins, Sarah thought, her stomach twisting. Her mind flashed to 8 years of late nights, her husband's quiet support, the patents with her name on them. This is bigger than me. She looked at her team, their faces a mix of fear and defiance. We're doing this, she said, her voice like steel. For Tesla. For us. They nodded, their eyes locked on hers, ready to risk everything. Outside, the factory was a war zone. Security guards, hired by the board, patrolled the exits, their flashlights cutting through the dark. Sarah's team moved like shadows, slipping through the maintenance halls, the USB drive hidden in her pocket. Her heart raced, her palms slick with sweat. Every creak of the floor, every distant shout, made her flinch. If they catch us, it's over, her mind screamed to turn back. But she thought of Elon's tears, his plea to fight. She thought of her daughter's drawing, the Tesla car saving the planet. I won't let it die. In Fremont, Marcus and his co-workers faced their own battle. The movers had arrived, trucks idling at the gates, ready to strip the factory bare. They're not taking our work, Marcus yelled, his voice hoarse, as he and dozens of others linked arms, forming a human wall. The crowd chanted, Tesla stays, Tesla stays. A guard stepped forward, his hand on a radio, his face hard. Move, or we call the police, he barked. Marcus's heart pounded, his wife's ultrasound picture burning in his pocket. I'm doing this for you, he thought, his jaw set. He stood taller, refusing to budge, even as sirens wailed in the distance. In Nevada, Linda's fingers trembled as she hit upload on the final research file. It's done, she whispered to Dr. Martinez, her voice shaking. But as the screen flashed green, an alarm blared through the lab. They've locked the system, Martinez shouted, his face pale. Security was coming fast. Linda's chest tightened, panic rising. If they take the server, our work's gone. But then she remembered Elon's words. Fight with me. She grabbed a hard drive, her hands steadying. We take it and run, she said, her voice fierce. Martinez nodded, and they bolted for the back exit. The sound of boots echoing behind them. Sarah's team reached the factory side door, the USB drive heavy in her pocket. A guard's flashlight swept past, missing them by inches. Her heart stopped, her breath caught in her throat. We're so close. She signaled to Jake, who cracked the door open, the cold night air rushing in. But then, a voice shouted, Stop right there. A guard loomed in the hallway, radio crackling. Sarah's team froze, their eyes wide with fear. This is it, she thought, her body trembling. We're caught. But then Jake whispered, Run, Sarah, we'll hold him off. Her team stepped forward, ready to block the guard, their faces set with courage. Tears stung Sarah's eyes, but she nodded. For them, for Tesla. She clutched the USB drive and sprinted into the night, her heart pounding with a mix of terror and hope. The camera cut back to Elon, standing alone on the stage, his voice a raw whisper. You're fighting for me, he said, tears streaming down his face. And I'm fighting for you. Across Tesla's factories. The 400 who stayed and the 19,000 who'd lost everything moved as one, barricading gates, hiding data, risking it all. Sarah ran through the dark, the USB drive her only weapon, her team's sacrifice fueling her steps. The board's plan was crumbling, but the fight wasn't over. As she reached the rendezvous point, a dimly lit parking lot where a team waited, she saw headlights in the distance. Are they ours, or the board's? Her heart raced, the answer deciding everything. The dream of Tesla hung in the balance, and Sarah's next move would either save it or end it forever. The parking lot was a blur of headlights and chaos, the cold night air biting at Sarah Thompson's face as she clutched the USB drive, her breath coming in sharp gasps. The headlights grew closer, their glare blinding, and for a moment, her heart stopped. Board security, her team's sacrifice, their desperate stand in the factory, flashed through her mind. Did I make it this far just to lose everything? But then a figure stepped out of the car lawn, his face pale, his eyes fierce with determination. Sarah, he said, his voice hoarse but steady. You did it. She handed him the USB drive, her hands trembling, her chest heaving with relief. The designs Tesla's heart was safe for now. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Elon used the leaked board report and Sarah's data to confront the board in a public showdown, streamed live to the world. The evidence was undeniable: secret deals, plans to dismantle Tesla, all exposed in brutal detail. The board crumbled, their resignations announced in a press release that shook the industry. The factory stayed open, the tech untouched, but the scars of the fight ran deep. Sarah stood in the Austin factory, now eerily quiet, the hum of machines restarting like a faint heartbeat. Her team was gone, most of the 19,000 sent home with severance, their futures uncertain. She'd saved Tesla's soul, but at what cost? Sarah walked through the empty halls, her footsteps echoing. Her eyes burned, not from tears now, but from exhaustion. 8 years of her life, late nights, missed family moments, patents with her name, had led to this. She'd fought, risked everything, and won. But victory felt heavy. I saved the dream, she thought, her hand brushing against a workbench where her team once laughed and argued. But I lost my family here. Her mind drifted to a daughter, Emma, who'd hugged her that morning, whispering, "You're my hero, Mom." Sarah's heart ached, a bittersweet warmth spreading through her. Was it worth it? She wasn't sure. In Fremont, Marcus Rodriguez sat in his living room, his wife asleep beside him, her hand resting on her swollen belly. He hadn't been called back to Tesla. The assembly line was running with a skeleton crew, and he wasn't essential. But the barricade he'd helped hold, the stand he'd taken, had kept the factory alive. He pulled out the ultrasound picture, his thumb tracing the blurry outline of his unborn child. I fought for you, he thought, his chest tight. He'd lost his job, his steady paycheck, but he'd gained something deeper, a fire he hadn't known he had. He'd applied to a new factory job that morning, his head high. I'm not done, he told himself. Not yet. In Nevada, Linda Park sat in the lab, one of the 5 left to carry the research forward. The hard drive she and Dr. Martinez had saved was now the backbone of Tesla's battery program. A flicker of hope for a breakthrough. But the lab felt like a ghost town. The desks empty, the laughter gone. Linda's hands shook as she typed, her eyes heavy with guilt. I'm still here, she thought, but my team isn't. She'd won the fight to save their work. But the cost was losing the people who'd made it possible. Yet, as she looked at the data on her screen, she felt a spark of purpose. We'll rebuild, she promised herself, for them. The camera lingered on Elon, standing in the Austin factory a week later, addressing a smaller crowd. His face was gaunt, his voice soft but resolute. We're still here, he said, his eyes scanning the survivors. Because of you. The 400 who stayed, the 19,000 who fought you saved Tesla. His voice cracked, tears glistening. This isn't the end of our story. It's a new chapter. The words echoed through the factories, reaching Sarah, Marcus, Linda, and thousands watching online. Some cried, some cheered, but all felt the weight of what they'd lost, what they'd held onto. Sarah stood outside the factory, the dawn breaking over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and gray. She thought of her team, now scattered, searching for new paths. She thought of her daughter, who'd never know the late nights, the sacrifices, but would grow up in a world shaped by her mother's fight. I'm stronger now, Sarah realized, her heart steady despite the ache. But I'm carrying their dreams, too. She'd lost her team, her second family, but she'd gained a truth. Some fights, even the hardest ones, are worth everything. The screen faded to black, leaving the audience with the echoes of the battle triumph and loss intertwined. What does it mean to fight for something bigger than yourself? To risk everything for a dream that might break you? Sarah, Marcus, Linda, and thousands of others had faced that question, their answers written in courage and tears. The story of Tesla wasn't over, but it was forever changed. A testament to those who refused to let it die. And in the end, it wasn't just about saving a company, it was about proving that even in the darkest moments, a spark of belief can light the way forward.